way more about being first than being right. They love a scoop, but it's a scoop of shit because it always turns out to be wrong.
Bill Maher absolutely destroys MSNBC for their shameless bias on live TV. And it's brutal, unfiltered, and honestly kind of hilarious.
Of the extremes and the extremists who dominate the debate. They have the megaphone.
MSNBC basically exposed its own hypocrisy on live TV, and Maher was right there to drag them for it. No mercy, no filter. Just straight up calling out the nonsense we've all seen, but no one on their side wants to admit.
If your news outlet consistently reduces everything that happens in the world to who the president of America is, get rid of it. It's just thoughtless, reflexive team politics.
Maher's had it with the media pretending to be the moral compass while pushing their own agenda behind the scenes. And this time, he didn't just push back. He obliterated them with that classic mix of sharp humor and savage honesty. Is this the wake-up call MSNBC needed? Or are they just gonna keep pretending like nothing happened? Let's get into it.
It's time for the media to admit that they blew the whole thing way out of proportion, because as always with media these days, they don't cover what's most important, just what's most fun to watch.
Bill Maher started this whole thing by diving straight into one of the biggest problems he sees in modern politics: how the left reacts to Trump. He wasn't defending Trump, let's be clear. Maher knows Trump has done and said plenty of questionable things. But his point was more about how over-the-top the reactions have become. Instead of calmly and logically pointing out the problems, many on the left go straight into full panic mode. Maher thinks this kind of hysteria doesn't help anyone. It just makes the people doing it look ridiculous, and even worse, it turns people off completely. What really bothers him is how everything is treated like a massive disaster. Maher believes that if you scream crisis every time Trump opens his mouth, it becomes impossible to tell what's actually serious and what's not. That kind of noise drowns out real concerns. He argues that the left is so wrapped up in outrage that they're not stopping to ask, is this even working? Are they convincing anyone? Or are they just preaching to the choir and pushing everyone else away?
But also there is a big problem of calling every Republican a racist and calling everything racism. That goes on the left.
Then Maher turned his attention to the media, and that's when things got really interesting. He called out MSNBC and other left-leaning outlets for turning politics into some kind of dramatic TV show. Everything has to be the next big twist, the next catastrophe, the next "Trump is destroying democracy" headline. Maher thinks this style of reporting is more about getting attention and views than actually informing people. It creates this exaggerated version of reality that just feeds more division. During the segment, Maher didn't hold back. He even laughed at how MSNBC basically exposed their own bias right there on live TV. It was like they didn't even realize how ridiculous they sounded. He pointed out how some anchors and pundits act like they're above it all, but then turn around and do exactly what they criticize others for. That's the kind of hypocrisy that really gets under his skin.
Like him either.
Yeah.
It's just that in this country, it's binary. I mean, gender may not be binary, but politics is. You only get two choices.
He brought up how celebrities have made this even worse. Suddenly, everyone in Hollywood is a political commentator. Late-night hosts, actors, musicians, they all jumped into politics during Trump's term. While Maher agrees that everyone has a right to speak their mind, he doesn't think fame automatically makes you smart. He joked about how half of these celebs probably couldn't name 3 amendments to the Constitution, yet they're giving long speeches on democracy. And then he tackled the issue of the left not being open to different opinions. Maher finds it ironic. The left claims to support diversity, but the moment someone offers a different perspective, they get shut down. He talked about how even asking a simple question or playing devil's advocate can get someone canceled. Instead of promoting discussion, it's all about silencing anyone who doesn't fall in line. Maher sees that as dangerous, especially for a country that prides itself on free speech.
Mr. False Equivalency, it's like, no, Joe, come on. I thought you were Joe Scarborough. There's crazy on both sides.
There's crazy on both sides.
Not as much on the left at all, but...
He didn't stop there. Maher also criticized the rise of political correctness and how it's made people scared to speak up. He said it's like walking on eggshells all the time. People are afraid that one wrong word, even if it's a joke, could ruin their career. And that kind of fear doesn't create progress. It creates silence. Maher believes that if we can't joke about things or discuss uncomfortable topics, then we're not really solving anything. We're just avoiding it all. What makes Maher's take different is that he doesn't pick a side just because it's trendy. He doesn't hate everything Trump does by default, and he doesn't love everything the left does just because they're supposed to be the good guys. He takes each issue and looks at it on its own. That kind of thinking is rare nowadays, where people are expected to stick with their team no matter what. Maher refuses to play that game. He values independent thought, and that's what he pushes his audience to do too.
I consider myself an old school liberal. You have to make that distinction now because, you know, the word woke, which started out as a good thing, being alert to injustice, and a lot of people get triggered by the word because when they hear it, they think of it the old meaning, which was good.
Right.
You know.
A great example he gave was about Trump wanting to cut military spending. Maher has been saying for years that America spends way too much on defense. So when Trump suggested it, Maher didn't suddenly change his mind just because it was Trump saying it. He stuck with his belief. To him, that's how it should be. You judge an idea by whether it's good, not by who says it.
About the danger of the super far right, and I can't say it enough. I think they're the bigger threat. But don't tell me that the left hasn't changed. I'm old enough to remember when it was the conservatives who hated the Jews.
Yeah.
Okay.
Maher also called out the tribalism that's taken over politics. He says both sides are guilty, but the left often pretends like they're not. They assume they're morally superior just because they stand for justice or equality. But Maher says no one should be above criticism. When you act like your side is always right, you stop listening to anyone else. And when you stop listening, you stop learning. That's how progress stalls. Another big part of his rant was about how people only want to hear opinions that match their own. Maher said it's frustrating when someone praises him for going after Trump, but then gets angry when he criticizes Biden or calls out MSNBC. He said people don't want balance anymore. They want confirmation. They want to hear that they're right and that the other side is evil. That's how echo chambers are built. And Maher thinks that's a big reason why America feels so divided.
Voters, people who really like him, they certainly are those. And then there's people who don't necessarily like him that much, but they still think he's less crazy than stuff that strikes them as aggressively anti-common sense.
Right.
That takes place on the left.
Right. So
that's why they keep running that ad about sex changes in prison.
He wrapped it all up by saying that the media needs to take a long, hard look at itself. If they really want to help people understand politics and current events, then they need to stop performing and start informing. Maher doesn't think that's going to be easy, especially with ratings and ad money involved, but he believes it has to happen. Otherwise, things are only going to get worse. Maher's rant wasn't just about Trump or MSNBC or even the left. It was about the bigger picture. It was a call to think for ourselves, to have honest conversations, and to stop letting emotions and drama take over every discussion. Whether you agree with him or not, you have to admit he made some strong points, and maybe, just maybe, this will get people to pause and reflect before jumping on the next outrage train.